Switched out my marker for this tiny little spatula. I think he's really cute, and it's also reminding me of Kelly Stamps. If you know, you know. I'm so glad you're here. We have got a lot to talk about. Currently 11 o'clock in the morning, so we're going to forgo our normal pleasantries and just jump right in. Go ahead, grab your morning cup of coffee, or if you're a little psycho like me, you have a giant jug of water. Let's get right into the Ballad of Never After, which is book 2 in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Okay, so if you watched my last video on book 1, then you'll know where exactly we left off, which is the following. Jacks poisoned Apollo and had Evangeline framed so that it would fulfill a part of the prophecy in order for him to open the Valerie Arch, which is kind of the whole point of this book right now. Book 2 starts with a letter that Evangeline writes to herself, kind of like convincing herself not to trust Jacks. So it's like a,
"Dear Evangeline, regardless of whatever your heart tells you to do, don't listen to it. Jack sucks." Yeah.
I feel like just like most of us ladies, we've all been victimized by a pair of really cute dimples, really nice hair, and a set of baby blues, you know?
We've been there, girl.
Now, our girl E has a knack for believing the best in people. We've seen it time and time again with every single dang person that's on this wall, okay? But apparently this was like the last straw for her. She's done. She says she's done with Jacks. She remembers in book 1, there's like this door in this library that's locked, and she's like, "Hey, I found out I'm a key and I can unlock doors and stuff with my blood. So we're just gonna go over there and we're gonna see if this library has a cure for Apollo. There has to be something." So she goes over there, she talks to the librarian. The librarian's like, "Oh yeah, if you go through this door, it'll like unlock all these stories that are like held dear to the Valor family, and there may be a cure for Apollo for this door." Jacks was just kicked out of the castle, but
of course that means absolutely nothing in this book.
So he saunters right into the library and he's like kind of smiley looking at her like, "Hey, what you doing, girl?" And he's like, it sounds like he feels kind of bad, and he's like, "I understand if you're upset." And she's like, "I regret not stabbing you when we were in the crypt." He's eating an apple and is just like, "Wants to wake up Apollo if you'll just open the Valerie Arch." But she's like, "Absolutely not, I'm not helping you." And she goes ahead, does her little thing with her finger, opens the door. He just laughs, walks away, and she instantly realizes that she made a huge mistake, because this door, when she opens the threshold to this door, the floor starts to crumble and there's dust everywhere. And in this doorway, like in this room, is a giant archway. And for whatever reason, it doesn't like stick with her that this could mean something. And she sees this arch and she's like, "Oh, maybe if I go through this arch, that's what's gonna take me to the books." So what does she do? She's like, "Okay, well, I gotta unlock this too." So she does her little thing again with her finger, and our girl E, I mean, she's really cute, right? Like, she's super cute, but kind of naive, kind of dumb. It's all right. We still love her. We still root for her in this book series. I don't want you coming for my girl. But she did just open partly the Valerie Arch. And this mysterious librarian just walks in and he's like, "Yeah, you fulfilled part of the prophecy. Now you just need to find the stones. One for mirth, one for truth, one for luck, and one for youth." When she finds the stones, the librarian's like, "We all need you to open this arch. Sorry, I tricked you, but now you gotta go find them." While all of this is happening, okay, so we have Apollo like in this little comatose state. We have Tiberius, who is currently in jail for confessing to the murder and attempted murder of Apollo and attempted murder of Evangeline. There's also news and talks that this mysterious heir is coming into town, and his name is Lucian Jareth Acadian. He's like a distant cousin of Prince Apollo. So we have a lot of drama going on, and Evangeline's like, "Oh my gosh, there's no time to waste. I need to find a cure for Apollo really, really quickly." She goes to Lala for help, but Lala's like, "I'm sorry, girl, I'm leaving because I got engaged." Our girl, the unwed bride, is now engaged, and even though she knows, she's like, I know. It's not going to end well, but like, let me enjoy this. I'm going to have a really long engagement. We're going to have a bunch of parties. It's going to be a great time. And sorry, I can't help you. But before she leaves, she also tells Evangeline, like, hey, you should open the arch and do it quickly. So now we got like a whole bunch of people telling Evangeline, hey, girl, you really need to open the arch. Really, the only person that doesn't want the arch open is Tiberius, who's in jail, and her. But she doesn't really know why she should or shouldn't do it. So Evangeline just goes back down to where Apollo is, and she's like, playing with his hair. She's giving him little kisses, and she just feels so terrible that he won't wake up. As she's like leaning over Apollo, we get this little scene, which is super cute. Had to read it. Do you kiss the prince because you actually enjoy it? Jacks asks, or is it because you honestly think it will magically revive him? Maybe I do it because I know it will annoy you, Evangeline answered, and Jacks flashes a smile that was far more wicked than welcoming.
Glad to know you're thinking about me when you kiss your husband.
So they're arguing back and forth. This goes on for a little bit. And as she's like facing Jacks, she feels someone grab her wrist and she turns around and it's Apollo. He's standing up, but he is not himself. His eyes are like bloodshot red and he's holding on to her really, really hard to the point where she like yelps in pain. And Jacks like freaks out. So he grabs a knife and like slashes Apollo's wrist to let her go. But when he does that, Evangeline also gets a cut on her wrist. And this is the beginning of yet another curse. You find out that this is a mirror curse, so whatever happens to Apollo will also happen to Evangeline. So it's really important to, keep both of them really safe, because you can assume that if one were to die, the other could also die. So yeah, that's cool. Evangeline automatically is just blaming Jacks for all of this again. And he's like, no, girl, I still need you. Why would I do this and cause you potential harm? I need to keep you as safe as possible. You're already like always getting into trouble. Like, this is hard enough on me trying to keep you safe. I don't need to, mess with Apollo too. He says specifically, quote, I do not want you dead, and I'll kill anyone who tries.
We love an I'll burn the world for you type of villain here. So welcome, if you're new here, to being in your villain era. This is a safe space for you.
We're now back at the palace, and Prince Lucian has arrived early. He's done like his coronation in secret, didn't invite Evangeline, and now he's just like come into Wolf Hall and is like, all right, I request an audience with the princess. And so Evangeline is like, what the frick? Oh, okay, this is weird. So she goes to the receiving hall where he's at, and the room is kind of dark and dingy and kind of suspicious. So she walks in and she can't really get a good look at him until she's like right at the throne. And that's when she realizes who it is. It is the unnaturally handsome, now recently turned vampire, Luke. We just can't seem to get away from him in this book series. What the heck? Luke is like trying to be all flirty, and she's like, no, we're not doing this right now. Like, you and I are just over. This isn't happening. And he's like, well, can I just get a bite from you instead? Like, I'm sorry for what happened before, but it wasn't really all my fault, that kind of thing. Because he's a vampire, he can't really control himself. He's a new vampire. So he tries to like kind of bite her, and then Jacks comes in, saves the day, as he normally does, takes her out of the room. And this girl was called in to, quote, have dinner with Luke, which if we can probably assume what that means, a human girl and a vampire, what that means, but she's like so excited, whatever. She doesn't know that. She just thinks it's a prince or whatever. And who is this girl? Yeah, I had to keep her on the board still, okay, because she's still freaking in this book. Marisol. So Miss Marisol's here. She wormed her way into the castle again and is like, okay, I'm gonna try and woo Prince Lucian. And Evangeline is like, no, you don't need to be going in there. And Marisol is just being super mean, saying all these horrible things.
You ruined your marriage, you ruined your life, you're not gonna ruin mine.
And Jax is like, you just need to let her go. Some people just get what they deserve. And Evangeline's like, absolutely not. I need to protect her, even though she like is really mean and doesn't necessarily deserve it. Like, I can't let her die. And so Evangeline's like, she's not gonna listen to me, Jax. You need to compel her to like make her go away. Just please, you owe me this. And so he listens because he's a good boy, and he compels Marisol, and she just runs for the hills. So yay for the first good deed of the day of this book. Evangeline, honestly, at this point is pretty overwhelmed. I think we can all safely imagine that if anyone else was in this situation, it would be really stressful. And that's exactly what she is. She is stressed the house down. So she makes a run for it. She goes to the garden. She's like, I just need to breathe for a second. And Jax is trying to find her. She feels the scar, because remember, we still have one more little scar on her wrist for Jax's bargain. So the little kiss bargain that happened in book 1, we still have one more kiss left, and so whenever Jax is near, she feels it burn. And it says, Evangeline hastened her pace, hoping to lose him in the shadows of the darkened garden, but Jax didn't stop following her, and she had a feeling he never would. And we get a little bit of banter back and forth. He kind of starts flirting with her. He touches her earlobe and all of this stuff. And she's like trying to push him away because, again, she's trying to be mad at him. She's trying to hate him. But it's hard when he does things like this. And this happens for a bit, and then eventually Evangeline starts to feel another tug at her, but it's not the sensation on her wrist. It's something a little deeper, a little different, almost like a tether to like herself, her soul. And so she starts to follow that feeling, and she walks deeper into the garden, and she finds a handsome man on horseback. But when the guy turns around, it turns out to be Apollo. Jax is like, this is a terrible idea. So if you remember in book 1, we find out that they can kind of communicate via thoughts, which is honestly super convenient. She wants to talk to Apollo. Like, I just need to talk to him. He doesn't seem as deranged as he did earlier, so let me just talk to him. And Jax is like, oh my god, this is a terrible idea. And so so she goes up to him and she says, I'm so glad you're awake. Apollo is like, gods, you're beautiful. And she goes to take a step towards him, but he like yells at her and says, don't. And he looks super stressed out. He's like, I'm so sorry, I really don't want to hurt you. But we see like pain in his expression, and it's like he's trying to prevent himself from doing something bad. And she knows this is not the same prince that she had married. That prince had a charmed existence. He'd been protected by guards. But now Apollo had a past, a love spell that upended his world. Another curse had almost taken his life, and it still haunted him. So he says to her, I don't know how much time I have, but I want you to know I heard you. Every day that you came into my chamber, I heard you through the fog asking me to try. So she feels another flicker of hope here. She's like, okay, maybe my marriage to Apollo isn't a complete sham, and there's some hope for us, and we can have our happily ever after. She takes a closer look also at like what he's wearing here, and she notices he's dressed in the same costume type of attire that he wore their first nights, the night when he proposed to her, where he was dressed as the archer and she was supposed to be the fox. It's like the same getup, and he's got like an arrow, he's got the horse, everything. And so she's like, does this mean you've forgiven me? And he says, I want to, but his words were oddly tight. He says, I wish we could try again, but I think you should go. And so then we see again that flash of pain. He's trying really hard not to do something. Jax is like, we need to leave now. And then Apollo's eyes go back to red. He's like in full hunter mode, and he goes to like attack Evangeline. So they make a run for it, Jax and Evangeline, but they don't leave quick enough. Apollo shoots an arrow and it hits her in the thigh. And then as they run, before they get back inside the palace, she feels another slice of pain through her arm. So she feels that she's gotten hit twice. She passes out, but right before she passes out, she hears Jax call her Evangeline, not Little Fox, like he normally does. And right before she blacks out, she hears him whisper, I'm sorry. And then everything goes dark. So now she's like in and out of consciousness. We're in the next chapter, and Evangeline is getting whispers of a lot of random things, but she's also remembering the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, which is the fairy tale she grew up hearing from like her dad. And so we get remnants of this fairy tale. So I'm going to kind of explain that to you so we get a better understanding of what that all means. The tale began the same way as it always did, with the most gifted archer in the magnificent north. He was young and handsome and admired, and he had been hired to hunt a fox. It was the craftiest fox he'd ever met, and he'd hunted it for weeks. The only joy the archer had while hunting the fox was on the days he saw the girl. He didn't know her name at first, but she was just a pretty peasant who lived in the forest. But he found himself soon wanting to chase her instead of the fox. He slows down his hunt for the fox, wanting to hang out and spend more time with the girl. She's pretty, she's sweet, she's clever. But the peasant girl had a secret. She could change into a fox, the very fox that he was hired to hunt. After learning this, the archer believes those who had hired him had made a mistake. He returns the coin he'd been given and told them the fox was really a girl, but his employers already knew this, and they were not happy that he refused to hunt her, so they put a curse on him, one that compelled him to hunt the girl that he now loved. And so the rest of the story is basically him trying not to hunt this girl, and we get to a point in the story where she steps out of her cottage and he knocks his arrow, shoot her, but he can't go through with it, and he breaks the arrow over his knee, and he's trying to think there has to be another way, and then everything kind of fizzles out from then on. We don't really know how the story ends, how this fairy tale ends. Eventually, Evangeline finally wakes up and she realizes a couple things, okay? So this girl is practically naked because of all the bandages around her. She's just got like a little slip on, and she is in a room with Jacks and Chaos. I finally found a photo of Chaos with his little helm thing, so we can only see his eyeballs, okay, if you can remember that. And she's like, all right, let's go. And they're like, well, you're kind of injured, and so we have some really good news and really bad news. The bad news is that you are pretty injured, you lost a lot of blood, and it's gonna take a lot of time to heal, and we don't got that kind of time. But the good news is that we have a solution. And that solution is that if she gets bit with vampire venom, she will get healed. But if we remember from book 1, what happened to Jax when he got bit? You know, he got a little crazy. He wanted to bite people. And so it's very painful. It's like a crazy hunger you can't control. It's a whole thing. And she's like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. She freaks out. And Jax eats his black apple and is like, you should definitely just use a cage on her. And so of course they just put bars over her bed, and Evangeline is like, no, let me out. She grabs the bars, and Chaos is like, okay, perfect, grabs her hand, and like a girl appears and just bites her wrist. And it's like instantaneous. A bunch of things. One, her body just starts to heal, like she feels it. You know, her leg feels better, her arm feels better. And then the hunger starts to set in. All the other effects of being a potential vampire start to kick in as well. So everything looks better, everything feels better, everything tastes better, everything sounds better. And then she hears a loud crunch behind her. She whips her head back. Jax took a bite of his apple, drawing her attention to the foot of the bed where he stood, looking like an eternal heartbreak. His fair skin faintly glowed, his eyes shone like stolen stars, his hair was spun gold, and the cruel planes of his face filled her with a longing so deep it felt like an ache. Honestly, like, yeah, she's found him attractive before, but now she finds him even more attractive. She's like, oh my god, he's like, careful, it doesn't look like you hate me right now. And she's like, I do hate you, but it doesn't come out sounding like that venomous. It honestly sounds kind of sexy. And so he's like, yeah, I'm out. And Evangeline, she doesn't realize how strong she is, how fast she is, so she like runs to the bars really quickly, and she's immediately trying to like get the bars open. And Chaos is like, all right, we're not doing this right now, like, I'm trying to help you. So what does he do? He slams her onto the bed and like holds her down with his whole body. She's thrashing and thrashing and thrashing, and he's trying to tell her like, hey, no, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help Jax. I want this arch open too, because I can get my helm off if the arch is opened. And he's had this thing on for like a bajillion years. He can't eat. It's torture. He wants it off. As this is going down, Jax walks back into the room. He sees how they're like splayed out. And remember, she's just in a little slip dress, okay? So like things are starting to ride up. Things look a little sketch. And his jaw is so clenched. His face is so livid. And he just turns around, walks out the door, slams his fist into the wall, and like leaves a huge hole. And they just stay that way. Like, they kind of just stay splayed out on the bed like this for a while until dawn eventually comes. And when that happens, she's instantly mortified. She realizes like how this looks, how like she's in a really bad state right now. And also she's really tired, so she just pretends like she's asleep. Like covers her so she doesn't look, you know, immodest or anything. She sleeps, she wakes up, and there's like food for her, a dress, a bath, everything. So she like washes the night away, and she's determined, okay? She's like, all right, we're healed. We're back on our mission. We need to cure Apollo, and I need to talk to my royal guard, Havelock, and see if he knows anything since I've been gone, what's going on with Apollo. I can do this on my own kind of thing because no one else is around. So she just leaves Chaos's lair, the safety, if you will. But honestly, I don't blame her here, because who would want to be in a house filled with crazy vampires? Anyway, She leaves, she heads into this forest, and unfortunately, again, our girl, Ish, like, Evangeline is kind of naive because she hears hoof prints and she's just like, what could it be? Of course, it ends up being Apollo. He's handsome, he's beautiful, he's healed. You know, it's a whole thing. And he is like yelling out for her. He's like, I know you're over here somewhere. Please leave. I'm trying so hard not to hurt you. And as all this is happening, Evangeline just feels a hand go around her mouth, arms go around her waist, and someone whisper in her thoughts, don't make a sound, little fox. Now, Evangeline is shocked. She obviously doesn't want Apollo to know she's there, but she also still doesn't trust Jacks because she's semi-convinced that Jacks put the curse on Apollo, and he's, again, trying to convince her, I did not put the curse on Apollo, I do not want you dead, and he is trying to kill you. All of these conversations are happening in each other's heads, but in order to stay quiet, but it doesn't work because Evangeline steps on a branch, Apollo hears it, and the chase is now afoot. So they bolt, and Evangeline's running straight towards the edge of this cliff, and Jax just tells her to jump, and she's like, but I can't swim, and he's like, I got you, girl. He grabs her by the waist, and they launch into this giant ravine off of this cliff. And we get to chapter 13, where we now have two individuals thrashing around in the water. One is determined not to die, the other is determined not to let her die. And then we get this passage. Jax's chest was heaving, his clothes were soaked, his hair was a mess across his face. Yet in that moment, Evangeline knew he would carry her through more than just freezing waters. He would pull her through the fire if he had to, haul her from the clutches of war, from falling cities and breaking worlds. And for one brittle heartbeat, Evangeline understood why so many girls had died from his lips. If Jax hadn't betrayed her, if he hadn't set her up for murder, she might have been a little bewitched by him. What a beautiful sentiment. They're arguing again in the water, but she's starting to come to terms with the fact that, like, if Jax is saving her life here, if he's doing all of these things, if he's clutching her this hard to, like, not let her die, then obviously Jax can't be responsible for putting the curse on Apollo. She just needs to kind of let that go, but she still wants to find the cure. And Jax is like, you need to open the arch. That is the only way we're gonna get a cure for Apollo. Are you sure Chaos didn't? No. Chaos wouldn't risk putting you in danger, Evangeline, because he doesn't want to risk losing another key. And then that's when we find out that there were actually multiple keys at one point, and they just have kept dying off. Like, they're not living. So she's kind of like their only hope right now. Eventually they make their way back to Chaos's castle lair place, and she's dreaming of, like, all of these men that are in her life that are semi trying to kill her. And then she wakes up to Jax leaning against her nightstand. Give this doozy of a passage.
You talk in your sleep, he drawled. You said my name. A lot.
She felt a rush of heat crawl up her cheeks, and she says, obviously I was having a nightmare. And he responds, it didn't look that way to me, little fox, and I was here all night. They get to talking about the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, and she's like, I'm not so convinced that this ballad doesn't end happily. This is a fairy tale. Fairy tales end happily. And he's like being all weird and stabby, and is like with his apple that he's holding, and is like, believe me, girl, this is not going to end well. And then this poor apple is just mutilated on the dress. And this part is when Evangeline finally tells Jax, like, all right, fine, I will help you. And then from here on out, for at least a couple of pages, we see Jax uncommonly cheery. And so again, now that Evangeline opened the arch, technically, like, the beginning parts, but she still needs the stones. So now they're on a quest for stones. So we got Evangeline, Jax, and Chaos kind of on this hunt. So these two make their way to Chaos's office, and she's like doing her little Snoopy thing, as one does, and she finds a really, really pretty stone in, like, a gem in this box, and she opens the box, and suddenly she feels like this urge, like, this is her stone, she needs to wear this, she needs to keep this, and walks into the room. He snatches the gem away from her, and she just starts freaking out. Jax has to, like, restrain her.
Honestly, I just feel like this boy is looking for opportunities to just grab her whenever he can, because this is, like, a common theme I'm seeing here. Just saying.
So when we find out that the stone that she was holding was the luck stone, so Chaos had it from the last key that had died, and he keeps it safe in this box. It's very powerful. She's gonna feel it the most because she is a key to this prophecy. So we need to like keep it at arm's length. These stones are very powerful. They're gonna make you want to hold on to them and use them for your own reasons and like not use them for the arch. So it's important to like hide them or keep them somewhere safe. But we still have 3 more. So we still have the Truth Stone, the Mirth Stone, and the Youth Stone to find. And Chaos sends Evangeline to his library to look for any clues on where they could be. And we get like a really pretty description here of just the Valor family, the Magnificent North, and the setting of everything. And honestly, like, Stephanie Garber is such a wizard in her writing. Like, she can do no wrong. I will accept no criticism on her writing. Thank you very much. But anyway, back to the story. So Evangeline goes to bed, she wakes up, and Jax leaves a note for her saying like he's gonna be gone for a little bit, and obviously a little annoyed because she kind of misses him. She's kind of like, well, aren't you supposed to be helping me search for these stones? Where are you going? Why didn't you say goodbye in person? And so she just is hanging around this vampire lair for a couple of days, trying to get some clues on where they should go to look for these stones. During this time in the book, we also get a lot of backstory on like Magnificent North, like in the Valor family. I won't really mention it too much, but essentially they were this really powerful family. We have the husband and wife and their kids, and they were like very beloved by all. The mom, Honor of Valor, she had the power of healing, and so she was like loved throughout the kingdom, etc., etc. On the same day when she's like doing a lot of her reading, they get an article or they get a newspaper come in announcing the engagement party of Lala and her fiance. All these great houses are going to be there, etc., etc. And she sees a commonality with what she just read with the great houses in these books that she's reading in Chaos's library. But underneath the article about Lala, there's an article about Tiberius because he attempted to escape his prison tower place. So she decides to go talk to Tiberius and ask him some questions, and maybe he would know where the stones are. So she leaves the safety again of Chaos's castle and heads to the tower to talk to Tiberius. I don't actually have a photo of Tiberius, but whatever. He is, as you can imagine, not very happy to see the girl that he tried to kill twice, and she's not really happy either, but she's like, you know, I gotta be up here. And she tells him that Apollo's alive, and she proves it by like scratching on her arm, Apollo, where are you? Seeing if he'll respond back. And obviously, like, that's super gross. Why would you carve into your skin? But she doesn't do it really hard. But then on her other arm, she gets like in like deep engraving cuts. Go away, don't talk to me. And so he's freaking out. He's like, holy crap. And then she explains the mirror curse and all of that. And yeah, your brother's alive. You didn't kill him. But somebody else is trying to do so. So if you help me, like, I could save your brother. And he's like, absolutely not. I already grieved my brother. And what my cause is more important than his life, unfortunately. So no, I'm not going to help you. And honestly, even though he's like such a terrible guy, you got to give props to Tiberius because he sticks to his words, you know? And there's not many men that can do that these days. So she leaves the tower. Obviously, she gained nothing from talking to Tiberius. But when she leaves, Luke is there because why isn't he? And again, he's like trying to apologize to Evangeline, and she's like, absolutely not. And Luke is like, hey, I'm going to a party. Do you want to go with me? It should be a fun time. A lot of great houses are going to be there, and a lot of all the people from the great houses are going to be there. And Evangeline gets an idea, and she's like, well, wait a second. I've heard about the great houses not once, not twice, but now 3 times. Once in the book that she read, once with Lala's engagement party announcement, and then once right now with Luke. And so she gets an idea to go to Lala's party, and maybe that is where she can get some clues that she needs on the stones. So we make our way back to Chaos's castle. Evangeline walks into like this little sitting area, place, whatever, and Jax is there. He's back, and he's with some rando chick, and they're playing checkers. And immediately Evangeline is like,
who's this? Who this?
And Jax sees her arm. He freaks out. He's like, who the heck did he's like, what the heck is this? Your husband has gotten worse at his love letters. And she's like, where were you? And I was killing innocent maidens and kicking puppies. Jax, that's not funny. Neither is what's curved into your arm. When did this happen? And she decides to not tell him about Tiberius yet because she's just trying, she just doesn't want to get into it. So she distracts him and she takes out the sheet that, like, the newspaper article about Lala, and she's like, we need to go right now to Lala's engagement party. This is where I have a feeling this is where the stones are going to be. And he's like, all right, well then we are going to need some gowns. So we're going to need some gowns, but I don't want Chaos to know that we're going. So I'm going to like come up with some lie and he's going to give us clothes to wear. So Chaos comes through because this boy, even though he's got a helmet, you know, he's a classy man, and he provides Evangeline with a bunch of beautiful gowns, whatever. And they make their way to House Slaughterwood to see Lala, and Evangeline asks, what is so wrong with, why does Chaos not need to know about where we're going? What's wrong with House Slaughterwood? And Jax tells us House Slaughterwood is the reason we are all in this mess, little fox.
Dun dun dun.
Now, during this time, Evangeline is also bringing with her this book on the rise and fall of the Valors, and she reads an excerpt on House Slaughterwood, and she learns that there was a man at this time named Vengeance Slaughterwood. He had a beautiful bride-to-be. She's looking at this photo. She doesn't know who this bride person is, or we don't know who this person is yet, but underneath that photo is another photo, and it says the 3 Merrywood men, and one of the men in the photo looks really similar to Jax. And next to the Merrywood 3 names, we have Prince Castor Valor, Lyric Merrywood, and a nameless archer. So yeah, fun. And that takes us to part 2, which is an unkindness of stories. I don't know why, I digress for a second, but I do not know why every time I film in this area, this lighting, my hair gets like progressively more frizzy, so bear with me. Anyway, the first sentence of part 2 reads, Jax headed the travel carriage of a villain. And I don't know why, but I really love that. We also get here the juxtaposition of like his all black carriage. It's like all velvet, black carpeting, black seating, gold detailing and stitching and things like that. Very doomy and gloomy. And Evangeline is in this like beautiful pink velvet gown, and it's stunning, and I absolutely love it. I love all of the dresses that she wears. So yeah, I like that different juxtaposition that we get here in this scene. Anyway, the journey to Merrywood Manor and House Slaughterwood is pretty uneventful, but we get like really pretty descriptions of the scenery and the transition into the Merrywood area. It gets like really dark and dreary and sad, and like everything in their mood changes. Jax tells Evangeline that this is where everything went to crap. Like, this all started because Lyric Merrywood fell in love with Aurora Valor, who was engaged to Vengeance Slaughterwood. So we got like a weird love triangle going on back in the day, and all of this is one of the reasons why this whole curse thing started. But Jax gets really tired of talking and telling all these sad stories, so he's like, I want to know how she knew about the theory that the stones were the cause of these great houses falling. And so she finds out about this theory through Tiberius, but remember, she avoided that conversation with Jax earlier, so now she has no choice but to bring it up. And so he finds out and he freaks out on her, and yeah. And he's like murderous at this point. He just wants to, do something, kill somebody, kiss somebody, I don't really know. But she's like, we're here to celebrate Lala, we're here at the house, like,
be cool. And
so we finally get to Lala's house. Miss Lala, she's so beautiful. It's her engagement party. And she's hugging Evangeline. She feels so heartbroken over Apollo, all these things. And then the guests are like looking at Evangeline and Jax, and they're whispering and all of this stuff. And she's like, just ignore them. And Jax is like, do you want me to kill some of these people? And she's like, no. Honestly, I don't know why girls are so mean. Like, stupid. Anyway, they make their way to the guest rooms, and they have their own rooms. Evangeline has one, and Jax is like, I need to be next to this girl in the room over because this girl can't be trusted. She's always trying to get herself killed. And Jax and Lala kind of get into it. He's like trying to rain on her parade, even though, because we all know that this marriage with Lala and House Slaughterwood, it's just not going to go down because she's the unwed bride, and she doesn't want to hear it, but it still bums her out. Anyway, they leave, but they start whispering out in the hallway, and so Evangeline overhears a little bit of their conversation, and we learn that Jax was there last week looking for answers, looking for a cure for Apollo, and also asking about the stones. So that's where Jax was when he had left the note and had left Evangeline, was he was actually looking for a cure to like help her. And the chapter ends with Lala saying, well, I hope you brought enough apples. Now it's party time. We have the engagement, like dinner cocktail party kind of thing. So they get dressed for the evening, wearing this beautiful gown. It has like a really deep V neckline, very daring V cut, a lot of broken gems, shimmering shades of pink and blue and violet, and it dispersed over the hips of a flowing skirt with a slit that went all the way up to her thigh. So she's like twirling around the mirror, which honestly we've all done, and she doesn't realize that Jax is in the room and he's staring at her. And so he goes, what exactly are you doing? And she turns around. She hadn't heard him enter, and her heart gives a silly jolt. She tried to stop, but while Jax was many terrible things, there was no denying that he was also painfully handsome. So we get like a little bit on his appearance here as well. And he goes, so is this what you do when I'm not around? And she says, you think about what I do when you're not around? And he says, careful, little fox. You sound rather excited by the idea. And she's like, I'm not, I assure you. I merely like the thought that I torment you as much as you torment me. They go downstairs and they're kind of like, again, they're on the hunt for these stones. They're like, all right, let's just scan the room. Let's mix and mingle here for a bit and see if we can get Evangeline's spidey senses to tingle, to get a sense for these stones. So they're talking around, whatever, they're going back and forth. And Evangeline is talking to somebody and she interrupts him. And we get like a really fun slow burn scene here. I'm just going to mention a little bit because it's super cute. So like he's completely staring her down. She's like biting her lip and he's just like staring at her mouth, like zoning in here. Honestly, don't blame him. Because she's like, to complete that game, like if you're going to flirt, I'm going to flirt back. And so he's just like, eye her, okay? Like up and down, head to toe, everything. He's just locked and loaded. She's like thinking all these things, and Jax again, he can hear her thoughts sometimes. So sometimes she like lets things slip, and his mouth kicks up as if he knew what she'd been thinking about, and his gaze plunges lower, moving from her lips to her neck until it rests on the swell of her breast where her heart was suddenly pounding. And he has fun messing with her, but then he's like, you're looking a little hot, little fox. Perhaps you should step outside while I keep searching for stones. And he just like saunters away. So yeah, Evangeline's just left feeling confused and breathless. And you know what, girl? Just join the club. And now dinner starts. Okay, we're at the dinner party. And Evangeline is sitting next to some strange girl. Her name is Petra. And she mentions that she's like, where did Jax go? And it's kind of weird because Evangeline doesn't know this girl, but she like mentions Jax to her and is like, oh, well, he went off this way with another chick. Maybe she should go like check after them. And so Evangeline gets up and goes. She doesn't even care that people are staring at her because technically she's like a widow or whatever because Apollo is dead. And also like, yeah, it's weird. But she goes through this like portrait thing and Jax is about to kiss some girl. And she's like, absolutely not. Like, what are we doing? I told you, you can't be killing people. And obviously Jax can't kiss people. So finally realizes, honestly, like she is jealous. Like she's getting jealous with people around Jax, like specifically girls. And she's like, whatever, I'm just gonna give in to that feeling a little bit. And so anyway, she confronts Jax and he's like, just let me do my thing. But he's like very stressed out. Like this boy is
frustrated, if you know what I mean.
And so eventually he shoos away the girl that he was about to kiss. And he's frustrated. And he like brings her close to her. He brings Evangeline close to him. Like his hand is trailing up her thigh. Again, we got that slit, okay? And they're just like nose to nose. Like it is, fingers are everywhere here. And she tells herself to pull away. This was Jax and he was evil. His hand was definitely doing wicked things, but the racing of her heart didn't feel like fear just then. The rush of her blood and the tingling of her skin felt good. He felt good. Evangeline really needed to push him away, but she grabbed his shirt instead, fisting the fabric in her hands. He smiled, only it wasn't kind. It was like the wicked end of a fairy tale, all sharp teeth that glinted under the torchlight. And so he goes, I'm not human, Evangeline, and I'm not your friend or your husband or your lover. I never said you were, she breathed. Then don't try to make me act like it. It doesn't end well. And she pushes him away and says, there is no this. I'm married. And he responds, and this is the end of the chapter.
He responds, you keep saying that, little fox, as if it's something I should care about. Okay. We're done.
Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, Evangeline, girl, you're married. You shouldn't be feeling these feelings for Jax. And she feels it too. The next chapter, she's kind of like having a pity party for herself because she's feeling super confused. She feels very guilty for like her feelings that she's starting to feel for Jax, and she can't really ignore them anymore. Like, I mean, can anyone? Oh yeah. Homegirl can't sleep. She stays up late, reads up more on the great houses. And we get like a list of all of the people in House Slaughterwood, including a woman named Glendora Slaughterwood. And it talks a little bit about each of the people, but we really hone in on Glendora Slaughterwood's little testimony thing. I'm not going to read you what this section says, except for the little ending. Glendora made babies, she threw parties and hunts, she turned the small Slaughterwood estate into a glorious manor with grounds full of flowers and rooms full of mirth, but it was never enough to win Vengeance's heart. He was forever in love with the ghost of a girl. And then it like kind of cuts off there, but she stops reading and she reads the line again about flowers and mirth, and her fingers are like, oh my god, what did I just read? Because could it be possible that Glendora had the mirth stone at some point? So she's like, I need to find the grave for Glendora Slaughterwood and see if the stone is in there with her. And she goes searching for the grave, and she runs into Luke again because this boy, I mean, honestly, is he or is he not Dean from Gilmore Girls? Let's just be honest. Anyway, Luke shows up and he's like, what you doing, girl? And she's like, just help me push this grave lid to the side. So he helps her, and she like starts digging in, and she sees a necklace, and you know, she kind of gets the tingly feeling. So she's like, oh my gosh, I found it. It's the mirth stone, but she didn't tell Luke that. So now we have this crusty, dusty stone, which is the mirth stone. Chaos has the luck stone. So now we got 2 more stones to find. And she's so excited. She goes up to tell Jax. She notices Petra from the dinner party kind of like wandering the halls and being super sketchy. So she's like, that's kind of weird because it's late at night. So she goes up to Jax's room, but he doesn't answer the door. So she just walks in and he's not there. She's like, you know what? This bed looks really comfy. I'm just gonna lay here for a second, as one does. And she falls asleep on his bed. And the next morning she wakes up and he's just there, watching her sleep on his bed with his clothes everywhere on the bed, and she's like all snuggled up with his shirts, and I mean, I don't blame her. And they have to get ready for the party for that next evening, and she tells Jax about Petra, and he's like, she kind of gives me the ick, stay away from Petra, I don't like the vibe she's giving off. So now we have nighttime, so the scene changes, and it's like party time. It's a costume party, and Lala gave Evangeline a dress of like foxes everywhere, because it's like a lot of people are dressed up as the archer and the fox from the ballad, so it's kind of like a joke, if you will. The only problem is while she's getting dressed, she notices a peephole that is on the wall that looks to Jax's room, and she hears like a conversation going on. So she sees that Jax and Lala are having like a little tete-a-tete, and Lala mentions that she didn't mean for Evangeline to get hurt, and she only did put the curse on Apollo because it was the only way to convince Evangeline to open the arch, and she needs her to open the arch. So we find out that it wasn't Jax, it wasn't Chaos, it wasn't any of these other people that we thought put the curse on Apollo. It was actually Lala, okay, sweet little baby angel Lala, put the curse on Apollo in order to kind of coax Evangeline to open the Valerie arch, because she was not going to do that. And Lala again really wants this arch opened along with everyone else we've met in this book. So yeah, so she's pissed, but she goes downstairs to the party, and Luke is there, and they go to dance, but Jax like intercepts that. Evangeline is so upset by what she just heard in his room. She just bolts and she makes for the garden outside of the house, and she just like wants a breather. Also, during this time, she's like been drinking, so she's like half drunk, okay? Which I don't blame her. Anyway, she's out in the garden, she's trying to get a breather, and who walks in? Petra. This rando chick is like, oh girl, I totally get you, let's run away. I found like an escape out of this house. We can just follow me this way, and we can make a run for it. So Evangeline's not like, she's still feeling kind of iffy, but she's like, she seems like she gets me. So they walk out, and it just gets more and more sketch, and then eventually Petra like attacks Evangeline. And during this scuttle, we learn who Petra is. So Petra was wearing a wig. When it falls off, like she has rose gold hair. And it just clicks for Evangeline that she was the last key. She didn't die, she faked her death because she has the youth stone. So she's been alive for like who knows how many hundred of years. When she found the youth stone, she decided like, I can keep this and live forever. And so that's what she did. Like she faked her death, she kept the youth stone, and she's just been hiding all of these years and living her life. And she attacks Evangeline because she knows Evangeline has the mirth stone. So yeah, they fight it out, and eventually Evangeline is able to, overpower and essentially kill Petra. Jacks comes out running, and Evangeline's freaking out, as one does when you've accidentally murdered somebody. So Jacks is like, I'm gonna clean up, you go upstairs, we need to leave now because Apollo knows you're here and we gotta go. So she runs upstairs, and Luke sees her running and she's covered in blood. So he's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And she's like, I just need to get out of this dress. I have to go. I can't explain. But as she's like taking off the dress, she starts screaming and he's freaking out. And behind her, like on her back, there's just like slashes, and it's continuing. Like she's getting filleted open pretty much on her back. She's screaming bloody murder. And it's pretty obvious to Jacks that Apollo is probably being tortured or hurt somehow, and it's affecting Evangeline. So Jacks is freaking out, and he's like, look at me. He tells Luke, you need to listen very carefully or Evangeline is going to die. You need to go and find Chaos fast. Evangeline dies tonight unless you tell Chaos to find Apollo, get him out of danger, and make sure his wounds are healed. And so Luke like bolts. Jacks grabs Evangeline, and the chapter ends with this. Jacks is now talking to Evangeline, but his voice sounds super distant and far away because she's like losing consciousness. She can feel the cool of his arms sliding gently under her legs and carefully under her neck as he cradled her to his chest.
It hurts Jacks, and he replies, I know love. I'm going to take you somewhere safe.
When I tell you, when I read that scene, the gasp that I gasped. They find a sled and they make their way, like they just book it. Evangeline is like in and out of consciousness, and Apollo is like stroking her really gently. He's like whispering to her, and she can kind of notice that they're leaving that like scary looking place with like everything is dreary and cold, and stuff is starting to pop up and look lively. There's trees everywhere, there's birds and stuff, and she has no idea where they're going. But eventually we come across a sign that says, welcome to the Hollow, and this is where we get to my favorite scene in the book. So he takes her to what looks like an inn. It has menus, and it's like a tavern-y type of place with bedrooms, with like a flight of stairs that go up and lead to a bunch of bedrooms. He carries her, takes her upstairs, and he has to leave to go get supplies. He comes back into her room, and he's like, I need to take this dress off. And this is when we get this scene here. You're good at this, she murmured. Do you often travel with girls who've been flayed? And he responds, would you be jealous if I did? And she in her head, she thinks, I'm not a jealous person, but what she says was, of course. And he laughs, like he actually like laughs. And she's like completely embarrassed, and she says, that's not what I meant to say. And he responds, it's all right. I'd probably kill another man if I found him with you like this. And then he rips off the back of her dress, and she's like, was that really necessary? And he's like, everyone should have their clothes ripped off at some point. This entire scene of him like stitching her up and bandaging her is honestly super tender, cute. Like it makes you want to cry, but I won't because I already did that the first time I read this book. But as he's bandaging her, her head is like facing the wall, and she notices like a bunch of notches. If you've ever done this when you were growing up and you mark your height. And so she sees different names. She sees Aurora, Lyric, Castor, and Jacks. But on the final year, like the last date that is marked on this little wall it doesn't say Jax's name, it says the Archer. We're in the next chapter now, and Evangeline's like wide awake. Her you know, as one is after being flayed open. So she just wants to talk to Jax. He's trying to get her to go to sleep, and she's like, just tell me a bedtime story. Talk a little bit about like the Merrywood family, and but he's like not really interested in talking. He's just like not all fairy tales end happily, and blah 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 blah. And he just like leaves her to fall asleep. So she does, and she's able to like sleep the night away. She wakes up the next morning, and she goes to like investigate, where is he. So she sees at the table, or at a chair like next to her bed, is his button-down shirt, and her dress obviously is destroyed. So she puts that on, she makes her way downstairs, and he's downstairs in just like his pants, so no shirt. He approaches her, and they kind of like flirt a little bit, but then she's like, what is this? And he had noticed this the night before, but he didn't confront her about it. And he pulls out this necklace. She knows that it's the Mirthstone, but he doesn't know that. And so he just assumes, because she was with Luke that night, that it was a present from Luke. And she says, no, are you jealous of Luke? And he says, I thought we already covered that yesterday. I'm always jealous. And so are you. From then on out, like, this scene kind of shifts, and Evangeline and Jax are very domesticated and docile here. Like, they say they're hungry, and they're like, okay, let's go sit down and eat, and like food just appears in front of them. And so Jax explains the Hollow. It is essentially an inn for travelers, and it's enchanted to always be a safe space for wandering people. And it's like clockwork. Like, the fireplace is always on. Food always appears like at certain times of the day, and it's very peaceful. And he's like opening up, he's smiling, he's being like, you know, he's answering questions that Evangeline's asking like without any pauses, and he thinks it's weird. So then he looks again at the necklace, and he's like, and he snatches it from her, and he realizes this isn't just a regular necklace, this is actually the Truth Stone. So it wasn't the Mirthstone, it was the Truth Stone. She got it all mixed up, even though it said that in the book with Glendora. She just had a stone, but we didn't actually know what kind of stone it was. But we realized here that it is the Truth Stone, and that's why he was answering all these questions. And he gets kind of pissed here because she wasn't being truthful, and she didn't trust him enough to tell him that she had found this stone. And so she's like, you just tell me why, like, I'm sorry, but I just want to know, why do you want to open this arch so badly? And he says, I don't. So yeah, that's confusing. The scene changes, and she decides to snoop a little bit more, but Jax is like, nah girl, you're tired, you're starting to sway, you need to go to bed and rest even more. And so he puts her to bed, looks up at him, and she asks, do you still think of me as just a tool? And he frowns at her and is like, I try not to think of you at all. But now she dreams, and she sees that Jax is like at this lake skipping rocks, but when she approaches him, she realizes that it's not Jax, it's just like some handsome guy. And he tells her, she's like, who are you? And he's like, just refer to me as the handsome stranger. He basically is just like, I can see why Jax likes you so much, you remind me of her. And she's like, who are you talking about? And he, like, before the dream fades away, he's like, his first fox. So very ambiguous, very confusing. But she wakes up the next day, and she's like, all right, this guy in my dream basically just confirmed that Jax is the archer from the ballad, and she wants more answers. But she can't find Jax anywhere, so she's just like doing her thing. She has breakfast, and she's feeling really peaceful. Like, this whole place is just like a little cozy rest stop place, if you will. And so why would she, you know, she's just feeling all her fears and panic and anxiety start to go away. If anyone has read The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and you remember the scene in the casino, that's what this place reminds me of. If you know, you know. She's really just feeling like, the longer I see her here, the longer Jax and I can just be together and hang out. And also Apollo is safe, so it's like a win-win situation for everybody. So she just feels like they can just be here forever. And this kind of just fuels her day. She goes around room to room. She goes into the closet to find clothes, and into a closet to find some clothes, and she finds a dress, but she also finds a diary. And then that's when she discovers it is a diary of Aurora Valor. And here we get entries about her not wanting to marry Vengeance, that she was engaged to Vengeance Slaughterwood, but she was not in love with him. So we learn about a little bit of the siblings, and that Aurora is engaged to Vengeance Slaughterwood, but she doesn't like him. She doesn't love him. She's in love with somebody else. And Lala and her are talking, but she feels like she gets the vibe in her diary entry that Lala doesn't like her very much because she's encouraging the engagement with Vengeance. And she's like, it's probably because she doesn't want me marrying her brother. And this is when we learn that Lala and Lyric Merrywood are brothers, and that Lala was most likely in love with a Valor. And Aurora Valor is in love with Lyric Merrywood. This is getting confusing. Bear with me. By the time Evangeline finishes reading through this diary entry, she's hungry again. She makes her way downstairs, and Jax still isn't there. So like, honestly, a few days go by of her just being alone. She finds a little dragon outside, and he's super cute, like a little toy pet dragon thing. And so she hangs out with him for a little bit, and then eventually Jax comes back and he's been stabbed in the stomach. So she's freaking out, and he's like, I just need to go to bed. And she's asking him like, what happened? You're covered in blood. And he's like, I was just being myself. People were being themselves. And you kind of know what happened after that. He's like falling asleep, and she's like, oh my gosh, no, I need to heal you. And he's like, leave me alone, I'm fine. She tries to tend to his wound, and we see that his wound is already starting to like stitch itself up. Like his skin is just naturally healing itself. And so she's like, all right, I'm just gonna leave, let him sleep it off. And then we get this scene. Keep in mind, this is my favorite scene in the book, okay? So if you don't like this scene, we can't be friends, I'm sorry. So Jax is like pulling her towards him, like to get onto the bed, and she's like, Jax, what are you doing? And he says, just for tonight. And she's like, Jax, you're injured. And he's like, this makes me feel better. His mouth is pulled close over her pulse. She tries to tell him this was a bad idea, but a soft sigh comes out instead. If his lips felt like this on her neck, she wondered how they would feel on her lips. And so they're just really close. They're kind of like cuddling right now. And she's like, we shouldn't do this. And he responds, I'm just asking you to stay the night. You won't even remember. And she's like, what do you mean I won't remember? And he says, in the morning, you can forget it. You can go back to pretending you don't like me, and I can pretend that I don't care. But for tonight, let me pretend you're mine. He continues, if it's easier, you can pretend too. And he's whispering at this point. You can pretend that I'm still Jax of the Hollow and that you want to be mine. And then he like nibbles her ear a little bit, and it's just, honestly, the scene is so sweet. It's very tender, very painful for me to read. She thinks he's delirious, and she's like actually thinking it, and he responds out loud, I'm not delirious. And so she's like convincing herself like this is fine just for tonight, and he's like, have you made a decision? And so the last sentence in the chapter is, she meant to say, for tonight I'm yours, but all that came out was, I'm yours. And you would think the book would end there, right? But it doesn't. Honestly, I have no words to top that. We should just end this video here, but alas, we must persevere. We must continue on with this book because we still got a little bit left. That night, Evangeline dreams again with the handsome stranger, but now they're in the tavern, and Lala also shows up to the story. She's apologizing to Evangeline fiercely. She's like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to have Apollo hurt you. I just wanted it to be like this quick little thing, but it turned out worse than I thought. And she's like, I'm the one that got in a fight with Jax, and I stabbed him with a butter knife because we were saying mean things back and forth to each other. But you need to be careful because Jax isn't in his right mind right now. He has the Mirth Stone, and it's making him not want to leave the Hollow. You guys have been gone for weeks, and it's just really dangerous. Like, everyone thinks you're dead right now. So yeah, the dream ends with like that warning. We need to get Jax like away from the Mirth Stone. She's feeling the effects of it too, and they need to like leave and finish their journey because they think only a couple days have passed, but like it's been a lot longer than that. So then she wakes up and her lips are pressed to his neck. Everything about last night floods back in, and she's extremely aware of the state that they're in. They're like a tangled mess right now, okay? He's still sleeping, and she's like, I don't want this like to end. And she notices they had moved closer as they slept, as if drawn by some force that she suspected was simply each other. Absolutely love that quote. Anyway, she drags herself out of the bed. She's like, I just need a second. I can't be in here forever. I need to like be the strong one. And she is in search of the Mirth Stone. She's trying to find it. It's not on him, so she's like, it has to be around here somewhere. And she finds it actually because the little cute little dragon that we saw earlier, he's like hopping around the tavern, but there's like a clock. And in this clock is a bunch of jewelry. And he's like trying to get into this little glass case. And dragons love treasure. That's like a thing. So he's trying to get in and she's like, what are you trying to do? What do you want? And so she opens it and she notices this really, really precious stone. And when she goes near it and touches it, she knows immediately it's the Mirth Stone because it's the same feeling she's felt with the other two stones that she's been in contact with. So she grabs it and she's like, holy guacamole, this is the Mirth Stone. This is what's causing us to feel this way in the hollow. But for a second, she's just like, I just don't want this feeling to end right now. So she puts it back where she finds it and she just puts it back in that glass case. She's like, mm-mm. But now we're all kind of second guessing ourselves, right? Like, what was the stone? What was real life? Were any of these feelings real that they were feeling for each other? The things that they said, the way that they looked at each other, how Jax wanted to hold her through the night, like... Eventually, Jax walks into the room down the stairs for breakfast, and he's looking all cute and adorable, shy boy type of thing. Love it. And he says, smiles at her, and he says, it was a smile like a fairy tale, part villain, part hero, part impossible ever after. She couldn't bear how much she loved it. And she's about to ruin it. She's literally just does what I could never do, which is break Jax's heart. And she basically confronts him as like, hey, none of this is real. I found the Mirth Stone and we need to leave because none of what you're feeling is real. And so he looks absolutely heartbroken. Like, he doesn't believe what she's saying is true. She's actively hurting him. And that just, I can't. Because this boy deserves better. That's how we get to part 3. This is so upsetting. Okay, but we're almost there. Hang with me. Okay, we're almost through. Because she grabs the stone from the iron case, or she grabs the stone from the glass case, and everything shuts off. It's like the tavern, or it's like the hollow stops working. The fireplace goes out. Everything feels a little sad, a little colder, like ice went over her. The dragon even wants to like leave the hollow. Now we're at part 3, a murder of monsters. This is literally so upsetting. I don't want to continue, but we're almost there. She didn't even want to look at Jax. If the hollow was this cold, she feared what she would see when she turned back to him. Although a tiny part of her hoped that nothing had changed, and that although the hollow had been altered, Jax had stayed the same. And he says, you can turn around, little fox. His tone was brisk, and at the sound of it, her spark of hope burned out. You don't have to worry about any more unwanted declarations from me. And he was right. When she turned around, the red from his eyes was gone. His jaw was tight, but it looked more annoyed instead of pained. So she's just like, I knew you would feel differently. And then they're like, all right, let's go. Honestly, from this point forward in the book, it's just extremely upsetting. If you want to click out, I totally get it. But like, for the sake of this video, we must go on. So anyway, Jax is back to his normal broody self, except now it feels even sharper because of the days living in this like mirthy, girthy bubble. So they get dressed, they head out back to Chaos's castle. They have all the stones finally, and they need to go open the arch. Now, if we remember, Chaos has Apollo. He's been healed from his back, and he's like, and Jax tells Evangeline, you need to just lock yourself in your room because Apollo is nearby. I'll come get you when it's time to get Chaos and open the arch. They have to wait for nightfall, obviously, because Chaos is a vampire. So she goes to her room, she goes to bed. But when she wakes up, Apollo is in her bedroom, and he looks like his normal self, okay? So beautiful Prince Apollo is awake. He's like the nice Prince Apollo, and he's like apologizing profusely, saying like all of these like pretty things, and you know, they get like intimate and they're kissing or whatever. Things get a little more heated, and as they're like, you know, kissing and stuff, he grabs her neck, but then he starts to squeeze, and then he's like, I'm so sorry, and then he starts to choke her. But as he's choking her, he also gets choked because it's the mirror curse. So it gives her enough time to like get up, run off the bed, and pull the lever by her in her bedroom, which we remember back when she was bitten with the venom, the cage kind of went over the bed. So that's the same lever. She pulls the lever and he gets stuck in the cage, and he's like thrashing around, and he's like, I'm so sorry. Jax walks in and he is livid. Like, he wants to murder Apollo. Apollo's like, get your hand. And so Jax like grabs her by the shoulder. He's like, are you okay? Apollo's freaking out and he's like, get your hands off of my wife. And Jax is just like, pulls her closer to him, and then they just kind of like walk out the door. Evangeline is so upset at this point. Like, there's so much happening. She just wants to be held, and she's like thinking this in her head. And so Jax does it. He just picks her up, scoops her off her feet, and just holds her. And we get this cute little scene. He held her so tightly it hurt, but this pain she didn't mind. She'd let him crush her, let him break her, just as long as he never let her go. This was what she wanted, and she refused to believe that he didn't want it too. They have like this really intimate moment right now, and he looks extraordinarily pained. Just again, we're remembering the days from when they were in the Hollow, and they're kind of remembering things, and they really just, it seems like they both want to kiss each other, but obviously that can't happen. And so eventually something washes over Jax's face, and he goes from like that pained, longing look to just like ice cold. And he's like, I have to go, I'm leaving. He finally tells her why he wants the stones, and he tells her that the stones have the power only once. This can only happen once. But if you have all of the stones, you can use them to go back to any place in the past. He wants to use it to get to the moment when he met Donatella all those years ago, which, if we remember from Once Upon a Broken Heart or the Carnival series, Jax met Donatella, he kissed her, and she didn't die. His heart started beating. So he's convinced this woman is his one true love. He just ruined it. So he wants to go back to that time to fix everything and get his happily ever after. Like, he's tired of living this way. And she's like, but you don't even love her. We can be together and we can be happy, kind of thing. And he's like, no. He tells her the full story of the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, since she knows that he is the archer. And he's like, the story ends with me kissing the fox after convincing myself that I wasn't going to kill her, but when I kissed her, she died. And then he explains, since then, every girl I have kissed has died except for one person, and you are not that girl. Cool, Jax. Let's just break everyone's heart here, okay? So he leaves, he doesn't say goodbye, and Chaos is ready to go. He's got the stones in hand. She has the stone in her little jar. And yeah, this is all very upsetting. We talk a little bit. Evangeline and Chaos talk a little bit. He's the monster in the myth that people have said that the Valors had created, and like what was locked up in the Valerie Arch, but it's actually the helm that is locking him in. But he's like, I'm not that person anymore. So yeah, he just wants to get this freaking helmet off of him. So they make their way to the arch. She does her thing with the door unlocking thing. She puts in the stones and it opens. They go inside, and he's like, he's about to go inside, and he's like, I need you to stay here. But obviously our girl E doesn't listen. So she kind of like sneaks her way in, and she like peeks through and sees what's going on. And we see that we have Honor of Valor, her husband, Aurora, and then Chaos is standing over them, and the mom starts sobbing and is like, Castor. So now we know that Chaos is actually Castor Valor. So she's just like snooping through like a pole or something, and she's watching all of this take place. Honor of Valor is able to take the helmet off of her son. It falls to the floor, and Evangeline gasps because she realizes that the handsome stranger in her dream was actually Chaos / Castor. When she gasps, it like makes, obviously it's a noise, and so they turn around and they notice that she's in there, and Chaos approaches Evangeline and says, thank you so much for what you did. And they look up at each other, and as she looks up at him, she's like looking into his eyes, and she's like, oh my gosh, he really is really handsome. But she realizes a moment too late that what she just did, because again, Chaos / Castor is a vampire. What can you not do? You cannot look them in the eye. And he could never do anything before because he had the helm on. But if he is this monster, like, he's an uncontrollable guy. And so she realizes her mistake too late. Chaos grabs her neck and reaches for her throat, and he drinks and drinks and drinks until hear Jax scream. He started to fall, and then Jax was there. Her eyes were too heavy to open, but she could feel him. He held her with a type of intensity that only happens when a person wants something that isn't quite theirs. But she just needed to tell him that she loved him. Evangeline, his voice was hoarse, come back to me. I'm not dead, she tried to say, but there was something wrong with her throat, and it seemed Jax couldn't hear her thoughts. He silently held her tighter and pressed his forehead to hers. She wasn't sure if he was crying or if she was, but there was wet on her cheeks. It felt a lot like tears, and then she felt nothing. The end. Next page. A tormented scream pierced the night like a blade. The sky bled and the darkness fell instead of stars, erasing lights across the magnificent north. We have another section here. Just bear with me, folks. I know this is a moment of silence for Evangeline. The girl was dead. If her lifeless body had not confirmed it, then it would have been made clear by the horrible scream of the fate who held her in his arms. The story curse was familiar with pain, but this was agony, the sort of raw grief that was only seen once in a century. The fate was every tear that anyone had ever shed for lost love. He was pain given form. Probably the best scene in the entire book, or best paragraph written, in my humble opinion. But I'm just a humble servant of yours, reciting this book. So what do I know? Chaos obviously is apologizing profusely, and he runs away. He's so sorry, but like he bolts. He's gone. Jax looks up at Honor of Valor. Remember, she has incredible healing powers, and he's like, you can heal her, you can bring her back. And she's like, no, that type of magic I can't do. Like, I can't heal people like that. The last time I tried to do that, I created chaos. I'm not going to do that to this poor girl. Just let her be dead in peace. So he's like, I'm going to use these stones to take me back to the moment before this happens. Like, I'm going to save her. And so she warns Jax, that is not a small mistake to fix. If you do this, time will take something equally valuable from you. The fate gave the queen a look more vicious than any curse. There is nothing of equal value to me. Now we're just going to take a moment to shout out my sweater that I made, because favorite quote in the book, okay? There is nothing of equal value to me. I'm not going to put it on because I'm hot, but yeah, so that happens. So he uses the stones, Jax uses the stones to go back in time, right to when Chaos and Evangeline are about to leave to go open the arch. Jax shows up and he's like, actually, I changed my mind and I'm going to come with you guys too. They go to the arch, so everything that happened leading up to that happens again, except now Jax is in the scene. They go to the arch, they open it, and Jax is like, all right, girl, you open the arch. I don't need you anymore. I need you to leave. And he basically tries to break her heart, but he's like begging her. Like, there is fear in his eyes. Evangeline can see it. Everyone can see it. He's like, I just need you to go right now. Chaos is not going to be himself. You need to go. You're not safe here. He feels really bad about what he's saying to her, and he's like, I'm sorry, little fox. I don't want to hurt you. And she's like, Jax, please don't use the stones tonight. Come with me instead. And he's like, this doesn't change anything. I still can't have you in my life. You and I are not meant to be. And she's like, what if you're wrong? And he's like, you just need to go. So she's heartbroken. Everything hurts. And she's wandering around. Time has gone by now. She's like slowly making her way out of the castle. She's leaving, but she thinks about it more. And she's like, I just need to talk to Jax. I love him, and that's like the strongest magic of all. If I can just tell Jax that I love him, I can break the curse on him. That's all he needs to hear, and his curse can be broken, and I can, like, we could have our happily ever after kind of thing. So she like runs back to go to the arch to go find Jax, but instead of Jax, like as she approaches the arch, Apollo exits the arch. It's like, what the heck are you doing here, Apollo? So Apollo is like, oh hey, I just had someone come into my room over at Chaos's castle. She let me go and she healed me of the curse. And she said if I take the arch that's in this castle over here, it will transport me here, and it led me to you. And so they're apologizing back and forth, and they're saying that they forgive each other. And she mentions Jax, and he gets like murderous look in his eyes. You can't trust anything he says, and something just seems kind of off about him. She says, I'm sorry, Apollo, and he says, I am too, but there was something off about the way he said it. And She goes to leave, but Apollo is too quick. She tries to dart past him, but he grabs her and presses her back to one of the stone angels, holding her in place with his chest and one heavy arm across her waist. And he's like stroking her hair, which is kind of weird. He says, "I didn't want to do this, but it's for the best." He brushes his thumb across her temple, terrifyingly soft and sweet, and she felt the fight draining out of her limbs. And as he's holding her again, she's like struggling, but she's feeling really, really weak. And she's also noticing that something is like fingers, like invisible fingers, are like digging into her mind and taking things that they shouldn't, her memories. She starts to scream because she notices like things are leaving her one by one. The night in the crypt with Jacks, gone. Marrying Apollo, gone. Her friendship with Lala, gone. Apollo infected with the Archer's curse, gone. Jumping off of the cliff with Jacks, gone. The Hollow, gone. Everything just completely gone. And she's screaming, "Please, please, please." She screams until her throat is raw, until she wasn't even sure who she was begging. She was crying so hard she could hardly see, but she knew that she was alone, not just alone in this strange place, but alone in the world. She felt it down to her bones. Then we have the epilogue, and essentially what happens is Evangeline is crying in a room by herself. She doesn't really know where she is, and eventually a strange man approaches her and calms her down, and she's like, "Where am I? And who are you?" And he basically consoles her, and he looks kind of happy, and which is weird because he's approaching and consoling this girl who's super upset. And he's like, "I'm so glad I found you. I'm your husband. You've been through something terrible, but it's okay. I've got you," kind of thing. And that is how the book ends. That is the conclusion to the Ballad of Never After. To summarize, Evangeline has no memories. Apollo took her memories. She has no recollection of Jacks. I don't know where Chaos is. And yeah. The good news is that A Curse for True Love has just come out, and I am very excited to read it, so stay tuned for a very live reaction reading vlog coming shortly, but I'm going to go ahead, edit this, and get it out as quick as possible. Let me know your thoughts on this book series, on book 2. This is probably the best sequel to a book I have ever read, and that says a lot because A Court of Mist and Fury was like really good. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for watching. I will go ahead and leave some more videos here, but until next time, I will catch you in my next video. Mwah. Bye.